today is a beautiful day. I'm going to be making a giant Jenga set. School is right around the corner, so this will be perfect for those late nights with friends, hanging out, drinking, pass some time a little bit, except I'm going to be adding a little bit of a twist to it and using a wood-burning pen to write sentences. For example, when you pull a block, you might have to take a drink, or the person across from you might have to take a drink. Before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm not the first person that has done this. There have been people before me, but this is going to be my style of doing it, and I hope this might appeal to you a little bit more than other people's methods. So, let's get started. Some basic things that you're going to need are 2x4s. These are 8 feet in length. You're going to need about 6 to 8 of these, depending on the quality. You want to avoid any that has any warping to it, any knots in it that could affect the integrity of them. And just try to get boards that are as straight as possible. Well, you will also need tape measure, a square, pencil, of course safety glasses, and then a miter saw or circular saw, something obviously to cut the wood as accurately as possible. So what you could do is measure each one individually, like so. You can measure it out, put the square there, and then mark it, and then cut it. Or what you could use is a jig, which makes it so much easier. You simply put the wood up to that block. It's already measured for you, and you just cut it. This can either be used, there's some holes in the bag, so I ended up screwing them into these wood blocks. Or you could use clamps, that works too. This makes it go by so much easier. For about half of these, I measured them out individually, and it took forever. So simply putting them up to this block right here and then cutting them, so much easier. I highly recommend this method. Started. Safety first. What you're going to end up with are 54 pieces, which equals 18 layers, and each block is cut at 10.5 inches. Is to sand them, get them as smooth as possible. Most of these have splinters, as you can see, like that. So what you can do is grab a piece of sandpaper, or my method, it's going to be a lot quicker, is use an orbital sander or hand sander. I am going to start out with 80 grit and then move up to 120 grit, which is finer. It's going to get it as smooth as possible. So like I said, I'm going to get rid of the rough edges, and I'm also going to kind of round these edges a little bit. Finally done with sanding. Sanding is by far the most time-consuming aspect of this project. And again, I use 80 grit, and then I actually went back over it with 400 grit, and that really gave it a nice smooth finish, help the blocks slide in and out a little bit easier. Not absolutely necessary, but if I'm going to do it, might as well do it right. So the next step is to use a wood burning pen such as this one. You can pick one up at, say, Walmart for about $20. So the first one I'm going to end up doing is shot. So when somebody pulls this block, they have to do a shot. So I'm going to first write it in pencil. That way, if you don't like the way it's laid out, you can always erase it. So let's do S H O T. Not bad. So then you go ahead, grab your wood burning pen, get the basic outline of it, and then you can go back over it. So that doesn't look too bad so far. And then you basically just complete it. Alright, so when you're done, that's what it's going to end up looking like. So using a wood burning pen is kind of extra. If you really don't want to do that, you can always use a marker. I'm sure a Sharpie would work just as well. Or again, if you don't want to turn this into a drinking game, you can skip that step and just do giant Jenga. That's cool too. Another cool option is something that I've really never seen before, is you can really write whatever you want on there. You can turn it into a kids game, which would be awesome out in the yard or in gym class. Say, do 10 jumping jacks or 10 sit-ups. Really something to get kids active. That's actually a really great idea. Done with that, you're gonna end up with blocks looking like this. And let's see, I got truth, I've got give to. Each one of these, have their fun meanings, and I'm gonna leave a link in the description below, and it'll have all the definitions to these dares, if you will. So the next step is to go ahead and use a pre-stain on it. If you don't want to do that, go for it. Pre-stain isn't necessary, but like I said, I want this to be as nice as possible since I'm actually going to take the time to do it. If not, you can just jump ahead to the stain, which I'm going to go ahead and do right now. Alright, for this project, I'm going to be using Colonial Maple, which has a really light look and nothing dramatic. Final step is to put a clear finish on it, and there you have it. Giant